Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. It's an enormous chus for our community to welcome back Moreno Rabbeinu, Rav Asher Weiss Shlita. His last visit to our shul, to our community, was 10 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been a decade since he was here. And the reason it's hard to believe is because over the last 10 years, we continue to quote Rebbe's Torah on a regular basis. We continue to turn to him with our shilas, for which he's written shuvas and answers on a regular basis every time we have a question. He's continued to welcome our visits every time we're in Yisroel, every time we're in Israel. Not only me and my family and so many members of the community at our high school for girls and other groups from our shul. It's been 10 years since Rebbe was here in the shul physically, but over the 10 years, we've continued to build, to grow, to connect, to learn, to benefit. Rebbe's continued to have an influence and an impact on us, for which our community is so beyond grateful. To try to describe Rebbe's impact on Klal Yisrael is simply beyond words and not within the scope of time that we have. You're all here to hear Rebbe, not to hear me. But whether it's the shilas that Klal Yisrael have, Dvarim Ha'omdim Meruma Shalom, the most complicated, the most difficult, the most complex, needing someone with broad enough shoulders, who's holding in Shas, who poskim ba'peh, who courageously takes positions without concern or fear what others will say, but with compassion and love and devotion to whoever's asking the question. Rebbe is not only a brilliant, brilliant mind. It's a gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives, for which he was born with. And the hasmada that goes with being somebody who's a baki and shasu poskim at his fingertips. But the compassion that I've personally witnessed and seen, that we've experienced, the love of every Jew, whether it was through Corona, guiding us on sensitive issues, and certainly over this last year and a half, the Shiva homes the Rebbe has gone to of fallen soldiers, of those who were murdered on October 7th, Hashem Yikom Damam, the loving compassion and support to families of hostages, the visits to soldiers recuperating and rehabilitating in the hospital, the incredible Minchas Asher Foundation that not only publishes Rebbe's tshuvas and svarim in Hebrew and English that we all learn and benefit from, but that also supports kolel, yeshiva, a beis din, and a chesed fund. A chesed fund that's not only helping Aniyei Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael, the people who need support and help, but of late, the Minchas Asher Chesed Fund that has been helping the families of fallen soldiers, helping provide for their family, for their children, for themselves. That's the achdus that Rav Asher Weiss Shlita takes for us, for Klal Yisrael, for the Jewish people. An achdus, an awesome responsibility to answer the most complex shilas in halacha, an awesome responsibility to all hours of the day, welcome and greet and go visit and uplift and support. The awesome achdus to travel the world when he'd rather sit and learn and write svarim, but to teach Torah, but also to get the support to enable him to help Klal Yisrael in its many facets and its many needs, and many here are helping. And if you'd like to help, please, you can speak to me, Rabbi Cooper Smith, who we welcome as well, who's here with Rebbe towards those efforts. And so while I could go on, and I'm tempted to, this is an opportunity I don't often have in front of him to express my personal hakaras hatov for a relationship that I cherish, and a relationship I feel beyond blessed to have over this last decade. Each and every visit to Eretz Yisrael, each and every phone call with a shaila, and every opportunity. Rebbe, we're so grateful that you've given us the schus to host you in our community, in our shul, to learn your Torah, to be here tonight, to share your Torah. Without any further ado, please rise and join me in welcoming Moreno Rabbeinu HaGaon Rav Asher Weiss Shlita.
It shows my dear and beloved friend, Yedid Nafshi, the Rav Rabbi Goldberg, and I thank you for your generous, warm, and somewhat exaggerated introduction. I am happy to be back. I carry fond memories of my previous visit to this community, this beautiful shul. We spent a Shabbos together, and I'm happy to be back. And I hope it won't take 10 years till my next visit. I invite you all, and I hope next time we will meet, it will be in Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh with Mashiach Tzidkeinu. My shul in Yerushalayim is not big enough to host you, but I believe we will find the proper accommodations. So this year, this past 15 months have been profound. Profound in many ways. Profoundly tragic and profoundly uplifting. Profoundly tragic. We have lost so many young people. Soldiers, and not only soldiers. We've lost people to terror. We lost people on Simchas Torah, October the 7th. And we've lost many young soldiers. Each and every one of them leaving a family that will never be the same. Leaving a void that can never be filled. So many young people. Profoundly sad. Profoundly uplifting in many levels. The miracles we have seen. Yes, miracles. The Ramban writes in the end of Parshas Bo, why is it so important to remember forever the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim? We have so many mitzvos and so many commands in the Torah never to forget. Min hanisim hagdolim v'hamefursamim, Adam moide benisim hanistarim, sheheim yesod kol haTorah kula. Ein lanu chelik b'Torahs Moshe, עד שנדע שכל דברינו ומקרינו הם ניסים, אין בהם טבע ומנהגו של עולם. We are to remember the supernatural, miraculous events, the 10 plagues, the splitting of the sea, to remember and to appreciate the miracles of concealment, the hidden miracles, the everyday miracles. And we've seen many. About 2.5 years ago, I had a meeting in my home with senior commanders from the IDF and representatives from the Rabbanut HaTzva'it coming to discuss questions regarding mass burial. And they shared with me, we think the Hezbollah has more than 200,000 rockets, mortars, projectiles, drones, and if war would break out in the north, we could expect, I can't quote the exact number, I wasn't authorized to share these numbers, but hundreds of casualties almost on a daily basis. And we will need to do temporary burial, and we discussed many shilas. Do we need to separate men from women and shilas of this nature? Tens of thousands of rockets and drones and projectiles hit our cities and our communities from the north to the south with a remarkably low number of casualties, miraculously low number of casualties. The war we've been fighting in the past 15 months is of the most horrific nature. I'm not a military man, neither am I a battalion, and I know somewhat about strategy and tactics, and urban warfare is the most horrific type of warfare. Analysts, experts say that the casualties we have suffered are about a sixth of what would be expected in any other country, any other army in the world. We have seen miracles. It would be wonderful, breaking news, and all the news outlets, if all the waters in Gaza and Lebanon would suddenly turn into blood. Just try to imagine what type of news, what item that would be. So what happened with the beepers and the walkie-talkies would be nothing compared, and the world will wonder, is that the Mossad, is that the Shabak? How did that happen? And the world would still be reeling from this miracle. New news, a zillion frogs came out of the waters in Lebanon, in Gaza, and miraculously, not one of them crossed the Lebanese border or Mavar Nitzarim. It didn't happen. And don't expect it to happen. It's not going to happen. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrote in the story of Anochi Haster Astir Panai B'Yom Hahu. In later generations, we do not see obvious supernatural miracles. But we are to open our eyes and our hearts and see the daily miracles and the many manifestations of Rachamei Shamayim, and thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that is number one. And the Rav, Rabbi Goldberg, asked me just to discuss just a variety of questions we've been dealing with, halachic questions in this painful period. And once again, painful and uplifting. So some 4 years ago, after a year of COVID, I published a Sefer Minchas Osher on the COVID pandemic. Sefer came out, person approached me and he said, Rabbi, Kvod Harav, I always admired you greatly, but I didn't know you're a prophet. I didn't know you're a Navi. I was surprised and I said, neither did I. Please share with me how you reached this conclusion, and maybe I am. So he tells me, after 1 year of COVID, this book has 650 pages. You started writing this book 4 years ago. How did you know COVID is coming? I was very disappointed. Obviously, I'm not a prophet. And I did not start writing that Sefer 4 years before. But when questions, halacha l'maisa, pile up on your desk and people are waiting for answers, you must give those answers. And then you have siyata d'shmaya. Unusual times bring unusual questions which require unusual responses. And once again, I am contemplating maybe there will be a Minchas Osher dedicated to questions of this war. And once again, unusual times, the most unusual of questions. In the initial periods of the war, the tragic ones, which I will not discuss in public. Questions dealing with burial, with avelus, the tragic and the sad ones. And I prefer sharing the uplifting ones. It is unbelievable how much heroics, how much emunah, how much chizuk we could get from many of these young soldiers. Horrific wounds, many amputees, a young soldier. In the past, I didn't mention his name, but he has become so well known. Young soldier Ari Spitz lost both legs and an arm, his right arm. And I went to visit him, and we developed a relationship. When I went to visit him, his first question was regarding tefillin. I'm a righty. I put tefillin on my left arm, but now I lost my right arm. He lost his forearm. He has his upper arm Which hand do I put on tefillin? And this is a question many amputees ask me. Second question, when Sukkot comes, could I be yotzi yedei choves lulav with a prosthetic? Is that velo kachtem lechem? Recently, I have dealt with the question, could you use your prosthetic leg on Shabbos? It's computerized, and it's an electronic leg. Is there any heter to use that on Shabbos? The question that really brought me to tears was, when I finally get my own personal prosthetic, when do I say the HaGaon? Tears were streaming down my cheek. Just a young soldier, tragically injured, lost both legs and an arm, and he wants to say a HaGaon. What was my tshuva? I'm not going to give you a detailed analysis of each shaila because that'll take all night, and I don't think that is why you came together tonight. So we don't say shechiyanu on any mitzvah that incurs pain. And that is the big shaila. Do you say shechiyanu by milah? I doubt one should say a shechiyanu when he receives his prosthetic instead of his natural arm. But these kids want to say a shechiyanu. So the formula, whenever we have a suffix regarding shechiyanu, buy a beged chodesh, buy a new pair of tzitzis, say a shechiyanu. Obviously, it is not the tzitzis that will make him happy, but these are the nature of questions I've been dealing with. The uplifting ones, besides the tragic ones. Recently, I was asked by the IDF. The IDF, more than any other army in the world, does extensive use with dogs. And these dogs have saved hundreds of soldiers. Training dogs to sniff out human flesh. Could they use organs and limbs, not from the deceased? They must be buried immediately, but from live amputees or other surgical surgeries. Could we use those limbs to train dogs? There is no Isra Noah, Be'eva Menachai. And Eva Menachai, according to the vast majority of poskim, is not Chayev B'Kfura. There is no prohibition of Nivur HaMeis. Sounds uncomfortable, but my psak was, the reason we want to train these dogs, maybe we could save hostages, or at least bring dead hostages to Kabula. And the intention is to take those organs and ultimately bring them to burial. So the questions we've been dealing with are unprecedented. In normal times, these questions wouldn't be asked. So the happiest question I had during this war is a Sheva Brochas question. A phenomenon that is unprecedented and none own in any other army in the world. Soldier in combat gets 2 or 3 days of leave, and he marries, and then back to the front with his comrades in war. Do we say Sheva Brochas without a kala? He's back to his friends. His friends want to rejoice. They want to be happy with him. So the Wall Street Journal interviewed a choshev rabbi in New York, one of my precious friends and talmidim, and they wanted to understand this strange phenomenon. Why would a girl want to marry a boy that's going a day later back to war? Why? Because they're Jewish. And that is one of the 1,000 ways in which we are unique, in which we are special. We are the people of faith. We are the people of hope. So do you say Sheva Brochas without a kala? In normal circumstances, this question would never come up. Where's the kala? And if the color ran away, is the chosen in a mood to have a sheva? So these are unique questions, unusual questions brought forth by unusual times, tragic ones and the uplifting ones. So this is a very special period. The Gemara Brachas Daf Zayin explains, when Moshe Rabbeinu pleased with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hoidiyeni no es drochecho, Haraeni no es kvoidecho. Bikesh Moshe Leida Tzadik Veralo. Moshe was troubled. Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest individual ever to walk the face of earth, like Kamna Vikamoisa, before or after. And Moshe was troubled by the phenomena. Why do bad things happen to good people? The Ramban, in his introduction to Sefer Iyov, and Sefer Iyov is the ultimate book of pain and suffering of Tzadik Verado. And the great Ramban in his introduction writes, Yesh davar echad, v'davar zeh garam lerabim, to turn away from their emunah, to witness good people suffering. Davar zeh, writes the Ramban, mad'iv hamachshavot v'mach'iv halevavot, troubles your mind and it pains your heart. Why do bad things happen to good people? And the Ramban writes, this phenomena caused many to turn away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Remarkably, many more people turned back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Eretz Yisrael in this period than those that were turned away. I have a friend living in a totally secular moshav, and he told me after Yom Tovim, this Rosh Hashanah, we had 3 times as many people in shul than we ever had before. In times of crisis, Jews look for meaning, and they find meaning in their emunah, in our Messiah, in our tradition. So this was an extremely painful period. So Rebbe Kiva ben Yosef taught us, in times of pain and crisis, Kol da'avid rachmana letav avid. At the end of Masechet Brachos, Rebbe Kiva deals with his own personal trials and travails and tribulations, and he is matzdik esadim. Sanhedrin Kuf Aleph, Chazal tell an amazing story. Kishacholo Rebbe Eliezer ben Horkonos. Rebbe Eliezer, the greatest sage of that period, fell ill. Ben Nechnasu Talmidav lebakro. Posach Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon was the eldest of his Talmidim, and he says, Levi, Toiv atu liyisrael mitipo shel gishamim. You mean more to Israel than rain. Tipo shel gishamim ba'olam hazeh, ve'ata b'zeh u'beba. Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, number 2, says, Levi, Toiv atu liyisrael megalgal chamo. You mean more to us than the sun. Galgal chama b'yolam hazeh, ve'ata b'zeh u'beba. Number 3 is the Beloza ben Azariah, and he says, Levi, Toiv atu liyisrael ma'am ve'em. You mean more to us than a father and a mother. Then comes the Rebbe Kiva's chance. What could he say after this unbelievable praise? You mean more to us than water, than the sun, than father and mother. Rebbe Kiva says, Rebbe, Chavivim Yisurim. Chavivim Yisurim she'em ma'alim et ha'adam mekaf chova lekaf zchut. How much courage did Rebbe Kiva need to say that? Wasn't he afraid? Wasn't he afraid, I wonder? And how does Rebbe Eliezer respond? He totally ignores number 1, 2, and 3. And he says, Samchuni, with a samach. Samchuni ve'eshma divrei akiva talmidi. Zo menayim lacha. And Rabbi Akiva quotes a post. So it is far easier to be makabel your own Yisurim than to look on at the Gadol Ador, your beloved Rebbe, suffering in pain on his deathbed and say, Chavim and Yisurim. It is the same Rabbi Akiva at the end of Masechet Makos, when with those very same friends, Hayu orim liYerushalayim v'ra'u shu'al sheyotzeh mebeis kodesh hakodeshim. They cry, and he smiles. And they ask him, Akiva, what's so amusing? What is so amusing? Why are you smiling? And he asks them, and why are you crying? How could we not cry? Mokem shekosev boi v'azar hakorav yumas v'achshav shu'alim yilchu ba. And Rabbi Akiva says, lekach ani mitzachik. Rabbi Akiva is the one that sees light in darkness. He sees chesed and bedir, and he is our teacher. It is easy to learn. It's difficult to see. So I heard from my great Rebbe, the Kloisenberger Rebbe, the Tzanzer Rebbe, probably everybody sitting here in this room heard about the Kloisenberger Rebbe. And many times I heard from him, when we say Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, you cover your eyes with your hand. Why? So the Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Kriyas Shema simply explains not to be distracted, because Kavana is ma'akev in the first pasuk of Kriyas Shema. However, if that is the only reason, it would be sufficient, it would be enough to just close your eyes. Lifting your hand and covering your eyes seems to be a symbolic gesture. So what is the symbolism? Said the Kloisenberger Rebbe. Shem Havaya always indicates rachamim, mercy. Elokim always indicates midat adin, judgment. And in the life of every individual, communities, peoples, there are glorious days, happy days. Sometimes the wheel of fortune takes a bad turn, and there are days of pain, of suffering. We cover our eyes and we say, regardless of what we seem to see, we believe, and we wish to believe. Hashem Elokeinu, chesed and din, Hashem echad. Everything is ultimately midas chesed. And time will come when we will be zeichet to Mashiach, we will understand, and we will see. So when tragedy strikes, people ask why. And this question is human nature. It is inevitable. And anything that is inevitable cannot be illegitimate. If it's inevitable, it is legitimate. When we suffer, when tragedy strikes, we ask why. And not always do we have an explanation why. But I think we should ask why every day of our lives, and not only in days of sorrow, of mourning, and tragedy. In the average life of most people, 95% of the time, life is wonderful. Family is healthy. You look around, there's bread on the table. Everything is good. And when things are great, we should ask why. Why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu so good to us? And why is life so wonderful? Do I deserve it? And what is it that I could do to deserve it? What is it that I could do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to merit and to deserve such a wonderful day. So the question why should be asked not only in tragic days, in sad days. We should ask why every day. You get up in the morning, kids are fast asleep, or they're up and romping around the house, and you hear laughter. You go out, and it's a nice day. Why? Why do I deserve all this? And what is it that I could do to be better, to make HaKadosh Baruch Hu happy? And I think the more we will be asking why when life is great, the less we will need to ask why in days of sorrow. Because Chazal teach us, and it's in Torah's Moshe, Tachas asher lo yovadeto es Hashem Elokecho b'simcha b'tuv levav mirov kol. Sometimes pain and tragedy are an awakening call. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, when life was wonderful, you forgot about me. And you developed an attitude, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as a reminder, don't take it for granted. So if we would be asking why when life is great, we could assume we would have less whys to ask when tragedy strikes. So I think in a time of stress and of war and of suffering, our first challenge is in emunah and bitachon. Open your eyes, realize the miracles, and see the chesed ba'omek hadin, like Rabbi Kiva taught us. See the light in the darkness, and thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Am Yisrael v'nifla'esecho shebachol yom imanu, erev u'boker v'tzoralayim. Achdus is always important, much more so in times of war. Over the Chazal teaches, ma bein doiroi shel David le doiroi shel Achav. The doiroi shel Achav, they were all over there by the Zorah, idol worshippers, and they went out to war, and they were victorious. The doiroi shel David, they learned Torah, they observed all the mitzvos, they went to war, and they were vanquished. Why? There was no machlokes, there was no hatred, there was harmony and love amongst the people. And in Dori Shel David, it was the opposite. So in times of challenge and of war, nothing is more important than unity. And a well-known medrash quoted by the Yismach Moshe about 10 times in a sefer. Moshe la'agudah shel koni. One piece of straw a little child could easily break. But when you have a bundle of straw tied together, not even Shimshon HaGiver could break. When we are together, ein kol ume b'lashon yechola lishloi bohei. These 15 months brought a huge demonstration of togetherness. To my dismay, after 15 months, some of it is coming apart. But still, hundreds of thousands of Jews have been visiting Eretz Yisroel, many of them, time and time and time again. I know people living in America that have spent most of the past 15 months, successful businessmen just coming to volunteer in the army, volunteer to Zaka, volunteer to Mada. I've seen hundreds of people coming on missions and visiting my home. And I always tell them, many of you have been to my home in this past year, and you heard this from me in my home. I asked them all, are you aware that you are insane? And they look at me puzzled and sometimes also hurt, offended. Why does the Rav think we are insane? And I say, because sane people stay away from a war zone. There's been a terrible war raging in the Ukraine for more than 3 years. We are not aware that hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians are flocking to visit Mariupol and Kiev and Lviv and Kharkov. No, it's not happening. 1 million Ukrainians flood the country and everybody stays away. And that is human nature. Sane people stay away from a war zone. Yes, we are insane. Beautifully insane, magnificently insane. Because Jews are not only a people, we are a family. And when your brother is hurting, you want to sit next to him and hold his hand. Not just a long distance phone call. When your brother is bleeding, you want to see him and hold his hand. So many of you, and hundreds of thousands of others from the entire world, have been coming to Eretz Yisrael. Billions of dollars have been pouring in. And so many people come physically to volunteer. And this is once again a demonstration. We are unique. We are different. And it's about time we realize, yes, we are the chosen people. We are a Kodesh Baruch Hu's flock. Every human being is precious. And almost all the commentators in Perek Gimel and Masechet Avos say, this Mame Chazal refers to every human being. But the same Mishnah says, Chaviv in Yisroel, shenikru bonim lemokoim. We are a Kodesh Baruch Hu's children. Chaviv in Yisroel, shenitan lohem klei chemda. And what makes us a Kodesh Baruch Hu's people? Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us Torah b'Sinai. That is what sets us apart. That's what makes us unique. And that is what makes us a Kodesh Baruch Hu's family, a Kodesh Baruch Hu's children. And finally, I think this period requires and demands from each and every individual personal feeling. Do your utmost. We believe in Torah, we believe in tefillah, we believe in chesed. Each and every Jew in the world could help. You're sitting in Boca Raton in Florida, thousands of miles away from the war. Not everybody could volunteer, but sitting right here, wherever you are, you learn another half hour a day. You say another few kapitlach tehillim every day. You give some more tzedakah than you gave previously. You need to believe you could make a difference. And I said many times, if nothing has changed in your life, from Erev Simchas Torah to mitzvos Simchas Torah, from the 6th of October to the 8th of October, something is wrong with you. Either you don't believe or you don't care. Because if you believe in this goal of Torah, of avodah, of tefillah, of chesed, and you do nothing of the kind, it means you don't care. Either you don't believe or you don't care, and both are very negative options. So each and every Jew in the world needs to feel some personal responsibility. Your money is important, your volunteerism is important, but what is just as important, if you believe, if you are a believer, you believe in Chasdei Shemayim, you believe in Torah, you believe in avodah, you believe in chesed, then each and every one of us, young or old, man or woman, boy or girl, everybody could make a difference. Learn more and learn better. Daven more and daven better. Do more chesed. Gemilas chasodim b'mamoino v'gemilas chasodim b'gufoi. And believe that you are making a difference. We all hope, and we really hope, that this war will be over the Korov. Things are totally unpredictable. No one knows where this is going. Each and every hostage that's coming home, the entire country is overwhelmed. And once again, this is a manifestation and a reflection and a proof. We are unique. I don't think this would happen in any other country in the world. The entire nation feels like family. We all feel the pain, and we all feel the elation and the joy when each and every one of them comes home to his family. So let us daven and let us hope that the war will be over the Korov, and all the hostages and all the young soldiers, they should all come home l'simcha l'chaim v'l'simcha v'l'sholom. V'notati sholom ba'oretz u'shchavtem v'ein machrid. Hundreds of times in the past 15 months, I call it the Ibn Ezra. One word that he adds in this book. V'natati shalom ba'aretz beinechem. Lefi pshuto shel mikro. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I will give peace to the land, between you and your neighbors, between you and your enemies. But Ibn Ezra says, v'natati shalom ba'aretz beinechem. If peace and harmony will be amongst you, then ushchaftem ve'ein machrid. Mi'iten, we should be zercher b'chol b'yameinu. So once again, thank you for having me this evening. I understand tomorrow morning you have a shir in the yeshiva, and then I'm off to Miami, and hopefully this Shabbos I have a big conference in New York, and then back home to my family and to Eretz Kodsheim. Coming to Chutz La'aretz to me is always a sacrifice and a service. And it's always a pleasure to come back home. And home is Eretz Yisroel. שנזכה בכל בימינו ונתתי שולם בארץ ושכבתם ואין מחריד. We should all be zeichet together to see Pnei Moshiach tzedkenu b'mheiro v'yomeinu. Amen.